guys, how's it going? It's time for the July garden tour. It's been a really long, hot month. I mean, weeks of high 90s, over 100-degree temperatures. In fact, it's about 8:30 in the evening right now and it's still 100 degrees. I'm already sweating and I just came outside. So the fact that I have pretty things to show you actually makes me a little bit proud of myself, because it's been a lot of work keeping everything watered and hydrated. I wanted to start up here in the Versailles garden because we've made quite a few changes and there's a lot of pretty color up here. So I want to start with one of the areas I'm most proud of, and that's this little spot right here. So you might remember last fall we did a little mini makeover right here. There was just grass that we removed. We've started with the 7 denim and lace Russian sage, which is a smaller growing Russian sage, doesn't get quite as tall. I've really enjoyed that. The honeybees have loved it. And then right in front of that, we planted 90 Cafe Noir tulips, which are all still there. They bloomed beautifully this spring. When I cut them back, I went in with some annuals, which I love. I love this combination. So we've got some White Knight Alyssum and some Supertunia Bordeaux. And I think that this mix is just so sparkly and beautiful. I really am thrilled with how it turned out and just how it looks, especially when the Russian sage, it's almost like kind of blooming out right now, but when it was in its full purple glory, it was amazing, you guys. And then of course right in front here we've got the Sprinter Boxwoods, which when I planted them they were probably like half the size that they are now, and this was just last fall. So the fact that they all made it through our 52 inches of snow with nothing broken or damaged or dead on them was amazing. So that made me a believer, excuse me, a believer in this variety. So I wanted to really just show you this spot and then one area right behind me. So you can see that I also planted some annuals around these boxwoods. I have Supertunia Limoncello in 2 corners. That's the light yellow one. And then I've got Supertunia Bordeaux in the other 2 corners. You can tell that the Supertunia Limoncello is really doing well. It's thriving. It's actually quite a bit taller than the Bordeaux. I didn't expect that. The Bordeaux, however, is looking a little bit sad because this area right here is watered with our grass sprinklers. I can't control how much water this area gets, because when it got really hot, we had to kick up the amount of water we were giving the grass. So these are just kind of subject to whatever, you know, we have to do to keep the grass looking nice. So, I mean, it's kind of a good learning experience. Supertunia Limoncello can handle extra water. Supertunia Bordeaux, however, doesn't really love it. So, you know, you just learn stuff every single year. Where I planted Supertunia Bordeaux, of course, the area I just showed you, and then in the couple of beds right up in front of our house, doesn't get near as much water and they're looking a lot better. So it's just good to make those kind of notes. Like, always make sure to have like a garden journal where you can note those things down so you don't repeat the same thing the next years, because I've done that before too, where I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that didn't work last year. So that way it kind of keeps you from repeating the same gardening mistakes. The other big thing about this Versailles garden is if you look around the perimeter, there are no privets. No more privets left over. I love it. They were looking really, really bad. You guys might remember they were like almost dead, and they were huge. So we actually had some young men come in. They had to bring a tractor in to pull them out. They were so old, huge trunks on them. I tried to take one out myself in the beginning. I had our reciprocating saw out and a bunch of tools out. There was no way. I got it cut down to the ground, about this far from the ground, and it was just this massive, I mean, there was no digging it out. They had to pull it out. So they came in and got it done really fast, and then we planted boxwoods. So we planted a total of 130 boxwoods, and you guys, we didn't film that one just because there's sometimes when you've got a big project that you just need to get it done. We had help here to help dig the holes because I've been careful, you know. We just announced that we were expecting a baby, so I've been having to try to stay inside more where it's a little cooler, try not to like do a ton of heavy lifting or a bunch of digging. So when we film videos, it takes like 2 to 3 times longer to get a project done. So when we have people come in to help us do stuff, we just have to get it done. So I knew we were going to be able to show you in this tour, and I want to show you like right in front of me how this looks next to the grass. I just think it's just, oh, so pretty. And I don't even mind that they're not a hedge yet. I think they just look fresh and nice the way they are. So we've got these all on drip right now, and they've all been doing really well. We look at them every day because we have to take a hose out to water a couple pots out here. So I look at them every day just to make sure they don't need any supplemental water, especially when it's been so hot. But they have all been doing great. You can see I'm kind of testing out some little lime hydrangeas right here. I set them up here because I thought, ooh, wouldn't it be pretty to have a nice hedge of those on both sides? Because this area gets morning sun and it's protected in the afternoon. So I'm thinking that that's a good plant choice for this spot. Let me know what you think about it in the comment section. And then of course these pots right here are just doing great. You can't even see the pots. They were huge black square estate planters. We did a video about them when we planted them up. If you saw that video, then you will remember that these grasses were tiny. Like you couldn't see them because of all the geraniums and everything else I had in here. And they have taken off and they're doing their thing. I'm really happy with it. I actually posted a picture on Instagram saying it was time to trim. That was today, and it was so hot I was like, I'll trim them later. Sometime in the middle of the night when it's, well, a lot cooler, I'll get to it. So yep, they both look really great. I'm loving it. And then over here you probably saw this little boxwood hedge was here when we moved in, the one out in the grass. There was a tree, a plum tree right here. It was beautiful, like the structure of it was beautiful. It was sick when we moved in. It was probably like a third gone, and then after last winter it was pretty much gone. So we had that removed. I want to come back in with something red in here, maybe 2, 3, or 4 somethings to line this area right here to create more shade and more cool areas in the yard. So this right here, I do want to move. The reason why it's still here is because it's so hot I don't want to transplant anything at this point of the year. So I'm waiting till fall. I've got a perfect spot for it. But it's just going to chill here right out in the middle of the grass until we're ready. Okay, so now I want to update you on the crescent pots. So let's go out this way. So these are the Crescent True Drop self-watering containers. We have 14 of them along our fence line here. We put all above and beyond combination in them, which is the Supertunia bubblegum, Supertunia Vista Silverberry, Supertunia Vista Fuchsia, and then a purple fountain grass in there, and they are all looking great. I'm really happy that I decided to go with all the same look because I think it's really striking. So this is the driveway we come down, so I get to enjoy them every time we drive by. I really am enjoying these. And as far as the watering goes, when we initially planted them up, I watered them in from overhead, like the directions said, and then I filled up the reservoir. But I did water them the next 2 days as well because it was kind of warm. The plants weren't rooted in really well yet and they weren't drawing up water. So I felt like just watering them a couple more times just to help them get started was a good thing. And then after that, it was 20 some days. I wrote it down on the calendar. I'll have to go count, but it was like 25, 26 days until I had to fill up the reservoirs again. And then after that, it's been kind of increasingly less amount of time between when I need to fill them up just because it's getting warmer and warmer and warmer. And now that we're over 100 degrees, I'm checking them about every 5 to 7 days. They've never emptied out all the way. The lowest they got was 1 dot left on the indicator, which means there's still water in there, but it's getting close to time to fill it. So they've never all the way emptied out, but right now I'm topping them off about every 5 days. And I have been fertilizing them just normally from over the top, just because, I don't know, I'm new to this self-watering container thing. So I don't really know what it would be like to add it to the reservoir, just because, you know, in the beginning I wasn't having to fill the reservoir but every 20 some days. And so I thought, well, I need to be fertilizing them on a weekly basis. So is that enough fertilizer? I don't know. So I've been just fertilizing once a week, and just from over the top, I just mix it in a watering can and water them in, and they're apparently liking it. So look down this way. Look at how beautiful they are. Now I want to show you the Gara garden. So this area right here is just planted right out in our driveway. It's kind of where it curves around right here, and so this is just kind of a good filler for the corner section. And you can see the boxwoods have bounced. We did a video where I trimmed these boxwoods and I trimmed them back hard because the snow had weighed them down so much. And then right here it was pretty brown. And I was a little bit like worried. I thought, oh man, I hope I didn't just kill them or, you know, harm them even more. But they have just put on a ton of new fresh green growth. Super happy with how those have done. And then this is Gara right here. It is absolutely insane. And my poor little statue in there is getting completely engulfed. I think I need to lift her up on some kind of pedestal so she can be seen, but this is just absolutely wonderful. And then right in front of me here are climbing iceberg roses, which are doing great. I had to cut these all the way to the ground after last winter, so they have just flushed back. And if you've ever grown iceberg roses, they're a really tough one. They're a great climbing rose. And then we've got sweet autumn clematis over this arbor right here, which is probably the most gorgeous arbor I have about ever seen. The previous owners actually left this here, and I'm so thankful they did, because this garden would be like, I don't know, so-so without this arbor. I just think it's so pretty. I love it. And it's beautiful structure in the wintertime as well. Here's another little update for you guys. This is where I put the King Tut and Supertunia Vista bubblegum. It's doing amazing, amazing. I am so loving this combination. At first, I thought, well, I didn't know how it was gonna look. I thought it was gonna be maybe a little bit too tall of a grass with too short of a flower beneath it, but these have filled in and they just are so like robust and so healthy and beautiful. I think it's gorgeous. In the video where I planted these, I actually mentioned how I needed to paint the bottom of the barn, which I did. I got that done. I also said I might add window baskets up there. But when you stand back here, let's move back here so you can kind of see. I think if I added window baskets, it would take away from what I have going on in the flower bed. What do you guys think? I think it would be too much. It'd be too busy, and it's like unnecessary, I think, in this spot. So the rest of this garden, all I have done is maintain. I haven't planted a single thing back here. I've just kind of cut back perennials as they need it, and just kind of maintained what was here when we moved in. And it's kind of interesting because the more you live in a place, the more you realize what areas you actually utilize and the areas you don't. This area is way back by our barn. We don't come back here. I mean, there's really nothing, there's nowhere to sit back here, which maybe that's something to consider. Maybe I'll add something like that. I actually didn't even start the fountain that's in the center right there, because it's been a little bit of a hard summer for me, being pregnant and having a couple of really tough months. May and June were pretty tough as far as sickness goes. So I just thought, you know what, I'm not back here enough to enjoy that fountain. It's too much of a maintenance thing for this year. So I just left it. Still looks pretty, and I don't even notice it's not running because I'm just not back here enough. So I'm kind of mulling over different ideas on how to use this space. I thought initially I would make it the vegetable garden, but I think it's way too big for that, for the two of us. Well, now the three of us, I guess. So I'm thinking maybe I'll make it I guess the four of us, if we include Dexter. So I'm thinking maybe I'll make it like a cut flower area, a place where I can test out different flowers that I've never grown before, because I don't think I would miss the flowers that I cut to take in the house. In other areas of the garden, I'm a little selective about what I cut to bring inside, because I plant stuff out so that I can enjoy it out in the garden. So it's really hard sometimes to cut those flowers and bring them in, because I like to look at them from out the windows or when I'm sitting in a chair on our patio. So I think this might be a really good area to create some cutouts in the grass and plant some cut flower areas. I've been dealing with gophers back here. There's a mound, you can see it right here. So we had one right here that we took care of. We had another one right here recently. So that's been a little bit of a battle this year. We've had gophers everywhere. Okay, a couple other areas. So this little spot that I planted up earlier is doing really well. Everything's thriving. I wanted to point out that my honeybees are doing really well. I added a second box on top of their first box there because they had filled it up. That queen is working her little tail off, and they had a lot of the frames all filled up. So right now it's a little warm in there, and so they kind of cluster around the outside of the box, which is completely normal. They say it's kind of like when you go out on the patio to get a fresh breeze instead of being cooped up in the house. That's kind of what they do. But they're doing really, really well. I'm really, really happy with them. Also, right in front of me, and I haven't even mentioned this year, but the leaf cutter bees that I installed last year are doing really well. I don't know if there's any in there right now, but there's fresh tubes, like fresh green. Can you see that? They're filling them, which is exciting. What are you doing, Dexter? Nerd. So this is where I put the spirals. In our last vlog video, I took these out of the pots that were by the barn, and because they were starting to sun scorch. You can see it really well on this one where it was starting to scorch. So I took those out and brought them to this area, potted them by themselves so I could give them just exactly the kind of water they needed. They're a little more protected here. They don't get quite as much sun. So I'm hoping I can rebound them and then utilize them again. And I think that they actually look really pretty up here. Then of course we just did a video where I planted some limelight. Actually, in the same video I planted limelight hydrangeas in here, which I absolutely love. That was a good decision. And then I wanted to make sure to update you on this boxwood that we moved. So this is way earlier this summer, and I just cleaned out this bed right here. I just cut back lavender, lamb's ear, a bunch of artemisia, so it's looking a little bare, but I wanted to show you that the boxwood survived. So there was a few people who were like, that boxwood's not gonna live. You cut off way too much of its roots. I was skeptical myself. I thought, well, if it dies, it dies, but if it doesn't, then awesome. So anyway, it's done really well. The flowers kind of went through a little bit of a lull, but they're starting to come back and bloom again. So everything's just doing really well. And then right here around the fireplace, there's more boxwoods. So this is where the bulk of the rest of the boxwoods went, because there were privets all along here. And I love how open it makes everything feel, because the privets that were here were about this tall. They came over the sidewalk and they came all the way over to here. So they were just these massive hedges that were pretty much sticks. And when these ones get bigger, these ones, I always say these ones, you guys, now I'm noticing it because I'm getting called out. I know it's improper grammar. These only get like 4 feet by 4 feet, but I'm going to keep them quite a bit smaller. So I'm going to keep them about this wide, about this tall, just a nice narrow hedge in this area, just so that I have room for more plantings if I want. But I want some structure in here so it still feels cozy, but I just didn't want it to feel like overbearing like those privets were. So you have to duck to get under here. We have a nice cozy fireplace area. I need to do some pruning big time in here. More boxwoods. Oh, I love it. I love how open it is. I'm getting ready to plant some penstemon in here. And then in this spot, I've got some marooned coleus and some Supertunia white. I love the combination here. And this marooned coleus is taking tons of sun. Way more sun than I ever thought it could. Really pleased with this combination. Okay, so I think one last area. Pretty roses. We got the arborvitaes planted finally. We picked up these plants in March. It's now the end of July, almost August, and we got them in the ground yesterday. In fact, we did a video specifically about the whole process, which I think we're gonna put up tomorrow because I didn't want the July tour to go out in August because it doesn't seem right. So anyway, that one will come out after this one, but I just wanted to show you kind of a finished, well, it's almost finished. Look, I mean, there's 65 of them in here. This area has been quite the process this spring. I'm just super thrilled that we're starting to see like some tangible results. Right up here, I'll show you where we got it finished all the way. So it's finished all the way to this spot. We didn't have enough emitters left, and the place was closed by the time we got to this point in the project. So we have to go tomorrow and pick up some more emitters so we can finish putting drip on all the rest of them. Then we can finish mulch and then it'll be done. But all of these right here, we ran the drips today and it was glorious because I've been watering them by hand every single day. And I'm just thrilled to have them in. It looks so nice and I don't have to worry about them blowing over in the wind or any of that business. So the spot we're standing in right now is our future vegetable garden. And you guys have seen a lot of the transformation here because there was a lot of stuff here. There was a great big elm tree that we really wanted to have removed because it was really old and diseased and it kept dropping these huge branches. Anytime we even had a light breeze, there would be big old branches on the ground, and that was making me worried because this is where people drive their cars. This is where people park and walk around. It just didn't feel safe to me. There was also a little dog kennel with a concrete pad, white fence about right here that went the whole length of this area. And there was a big concrete weir, which I think we may have showed you guys that already, but it was massive. It went way down into the ground, way further than I thought. It was about, I think about right here. And it was, so a weir is an old irrigation, it's an irrigation access, but this one was old. It was like 40 plus years old and it was all corroded and cracked, so they couldn't use it anymore. So it was just kind of this big concrete piece in the ground. So I thought, well, if we could have that removed, I would love it because I would really like to utilize the space. So somebody came in with a backhoe and was able to get it out. Like he drug it out. It took him a while And then they had to go get a jackhammer attachment to break it into pieces to haul it out of here. It was quite the process. So, I mean, you guys know all the stuff that was here, and it's been, you know, just getting people lined up and to come and get it done. But they've all done a beautiful job. I'm so happy with it. And now we're like this much closer. Like we have this much more to get our raised beds in. We do have a dedicated drip. You can see right here. This will be the drip system for all the raised beds that are going in. The last thing that we're having done before we can put our beds in is we are having the sprinkler guys come back and run a couple of lines so that I can have individual faucets in each raised bed. So they'll all be on the same zone. I can have them run all at the same time, or I can turn off faucets at individual beds if I don't want them to run as often, or if I don't have anything currently planted in that bed, then I can control the water and we won't waste water on a bed that doesn't need it. But we'll show you guys all of that as the time comes. I think this area is going to be super cute with the raised beds. I want to put something fancy in the center, either a fountain or a really pretty pot, and then maybe a picket fence around the exterior of the garden. I think it's just going to be really cute. I'm really excited to show you guys how it kind of comes together. So I think that is it for the July garden tour. I hope you enjoyed seeing everything that's happened. I feel like this month has been super busy, like we've gotten a lot done even though it's been so hot. So anyway, we will see you guys in the next video. Bye.